everyone. Welcome back to another episode of From the Ground Up with Esther. This is a podcast where we talk about stories of faith, resilience, and joy. And I am very happy today because I have two special people with me that go to my church and they are embarking themselves on a project that is very fun that I have seen at church, and they're working a lot, very hard. And it's a movie that's coming out mid-November. And I wanted you guys and myself to learn more about it and to see what is the idea, the purpose behind it. So I want to know LaVal and Ashley. So I am very excited.
First and foremost, thank you for having us. We think you have a really great podcast, and we're just so honored to be a part of it. It's really encouraging so many people, and I think it's awesome.
Yeah, we had a beautiful day. It's so great to just spend some quality time with you. And thank you for giving us this opportunity to talk about rideshare. And it's been a glorious day.
Oh, it's very exciting to me because I've been seeing the clips that you have shared, right? And the video that you share at church about it. So I want to know what's the purpose behind it because during this season now I am interviewing entrepreneurs and people that I'm learning myself from or what inspired them to start the business, the struggles, the purpose behind whatever thing that they're doing. And it is even more exciting for me to hear from people of God that are doing something with a higher purpose. So talk to me about rideshare.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, kind of a long story. I hope it's not too long, but so I actually went to school for finance and worked in banking for about 10 years. And just kind of going through that whole process, I kind of realized that I wasn't happy, and nothing against it or anything, but I decided to pursue acting, and I didn't know how to go about it. So I started taking classes while still working at the bank. And about 2 months and kind of like declaring that's what I wanted to do, I found out that I was getting let go of my job. So I kind of had a divine fork in the road of if I really want to go for this or not. And so I decided to go for it, and started acting in like student films and doing some commercials and stuff like that. Really quickly, I realized that actors are kind of at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to creativity and calling any of the shots. That's what really inspired me to want to start making my own content, my own films. And going in as an actor, it's really inconsistent, and so I had to pick up a lot of odd jobs. I was a substitute teacher for a while. I did bartending, catering. I taught CPR classes, and I also drove Uber for about a year. And while I was in that season of driving that car, I was just thinking to myself, how the heck did I get here? And I was working in banking, went to school for finance. Now I'm driving Uber around, and God just kind of told me that, I don't waste anything, and you're here I knew I was only there for a season. So I said, LaVal, let me just be positive. Let me try to just, play some K-Love, some Christian music real low in the background, because I didn't want to, offend anyone or beat anyone over the head with God or anything, and just try to have some positive conversations. And when that season ended at the end of 2019, I kind of put that on the shelf. And years later, I just knew that God didn't waste that for nothing. Even if I did have a good conversation with someone, maybe that's all it was for. But the story came to mind for me to write and evolved in a number of different ways. But I won't get into that now. But that's kind of what brought me to rideshare.
So LaVal and I met in 2019, actually. And I was also in a completely different space, different line of work. And I was working in sales and branding. I worked in hospitality, and I used to sell liquor, and I used to kind of just promote a lifestyle that once I was saved, was no really longer living. And I grew up acting, singing, dancing. I was kind of always in that creative space in all kinds of projects in theater and school and choirs and concerts and things like that. And when I got to school, I kind of I laid that all down. I was like, oh, I'm not going to become a famous singer. I'm going to just kind of lay that to rest, right? But that creative spirit was always in me. And I was blessed because God, I felt like, gave me that gift. And I worked, about 10 to 12 years between living on the West Coast and on the East Coast. And after COVID, I started in a completely different line of work. I work in finance now, ironic, but it's not like what for me, that's not anything. It's just right now it's a paycheck. God's definitely using that season for us right now. But I had the opportunity to start serving in church when I got saved and start singing again. And it was just kind of full circle moment, like, now I'm walking with God, and now I'm able to use this gift to be able to be part of worship and be able to usher in the Holy Spirit and allow people to see like how much of a redeemer God is, and that he's always walking with you even if you don't know yet. And I felt super grateful when I met LaVal because of like our journey and our story together, and being able to join him and do something super creative in the film space. So this is my first time I've ever get to work on a movie and help LaVal through really the concept all the way to now it becoming real and live. So it's been an amazing journey. He's the experienced one. And I'm always like, I want to be behind the scenes. I don't want to be in the movie, but throw me in, coach, whatever you need, So it's been such a blessing to be able to work on it together and do projects together as husband and wife. I just feel honored, and I'm so proud of him. I'm so excited for just the movie.
Yeah, that's exciting. Yeah. So God is allowing you to do what you loved, right? With your husband now,
Yeah.
which is just, yeah, it's amazing to see how God works and puts people together. I love to hear that because before, when you're single, I guess you don't realize how you're going to help this other person that God has for you.
Yeah.
Seeing that is very inspiring to me.
All the things that are going on in your life. Sorry, I want to make sure it's picked up. Like all the things that you like maybe feel like you have done great, or things that you aren't doing well. Like he uses it all for his good and for his glory. And that's like a whole nother testimony to share.
Another podcast. Yeah, tell me. You said you had your experience driving Uber, and that's when the idea started in your mind and got planting that seed in your heart to be a blessing to other people. Take us back to how everything started. The process of doing this.
Sure. Yeah. So God planted the seed in my heart back when I was driving in 2019, but I just didn't know yet. And I'm sure he does that with a lot of us. He plants seeds and we don't even know that it's there. And it starts digging roots. But in 2020, I had wrote another short film with a friend of mine called Divide. And right after that, I wanted to, somehow it started picking at me again. And again, God doesn't always beat you over the face with anything. He does, whispers, quiet whispers. So again, it just came back to me, man, that season I was driving that car, I know it wasn't for nothing. So I started writing this short film, and crazy enough, it actually started out as a horror because I was still, in my walk, and the Holy Spirit was, pruning things from me, but there's some things I wasn't pruned yet. So I was still like a horror fan and wanted to be like the next Jordan Peele or something. So I started writing it, and for some reason, it just didn't take off the script. Like I just couldn't figure it out. And so I put it on the table. A couple of years went by. I said, all right, I don't want to do horror. Now I want to make it a crime drama. Holy Spirit's working on me still. But I was like, all right, it's not horror, maybe crime drama. So now maybe like it'll be a little more interesting, but it isn't something super dark. For some reason or another, didn't take off, put it back on the shelf. And then November of last year, I had a conversation with a casting director. Her name is Beverly Holloway, and she's done casting for The Chosen and a lot of Christian films. And she's based, I think she's in Ohio, but she kind of covers the Southeast, like Texas, Tennessee, and so forth, Atlanta. And so us, being in Connecticut and Northeast, one of the things that I mentioned to her was that it's kind of hard to break into the Christian film space up here in the Northeast, where it seems like a lot of things are made down south. And she completely agreed. She said that, that ecosystem is a completely separate ecosystem from Hollywood, in California and whatnot. A lot of the Christian stuff is unfortunately just done down there. Diverse stories are really needed, whether it's people of color or just from different demographic areas, especially in big cities or whatnot. So she really encouraged me to write a short story, produce it, shoot it, and then kind of get it into the Christian film festival space to kind of get my name into that world. So I said, okay, now Rideshare came back to me. How can I put this into a Christian thing? And like, LaVal, you literally was trying to be a positive influence for people in this car. It wasn't nothing about a crime drama. There was no horror behind it. It was just you. And that's good enough. And I think sometimes we may feel like we have to embellish things to make it good enough, to make it attractive for people to see. But God loves us just as we are. Our stories may seem mundane or just everyday stuff to us, but he can really really make a lot of powerful things out of it. So I said, all right, I want to write this kind of what it was really about. And so I don't want to give the plot away too much, but yeah, it's a story about a man who's struggling with his faith, and he has a tragic accident that makes him even more questioning of his faith. And so a year later, as he's driving this car, he comes across a series of passengers that kind of challenges everything that he believes. So that's kind of where I got that. So I wrote the script early at the end of last year, and then early this year, I'm just continuing to redefine it. I had some friends of mine at church that helped me to tighten it up. Courtney Manking, Kevin and Maria O'Brien, they were really instrumental in helping me to develop the story. Ashley was super helpful in helping me develop the story. And so I started reaching out to different people to help me produce it, because, it does take a village to make any movie, whether it's a short or a feature film. And, with the story, the plot that I had, we're driving a car, a lot of complicated things. A lot of people didn't want to touch it for one reason or another. And I know God closes doors. He opens doors for a reason. He can put people in your life or pull people out of it and make things not attractive for certain people if it's just not the right people. But luckily, someone who I had worked with on a short film that I had wrote in 2020 decided to take on the script, and it fit in the budget that I had in mind. And so we were able to shoot it in June, and Ashley super helpful because she was helping me through like scouting locations. She helped me with the casting, finding the right actors. We use an online platform to help people send in self-tapes to help us get that going. Craft services, wardrobe, makeup, like she was helped with me in it all. So definitely my partner in crime, co-producer. But yeah, we shot it in 3 days and a 3-day weekend in June this year. And we started the editing process a month ago. And yeah, we're still getting, trying to get some more funding to help us finish it. But yeah, we're almost there, and I'm really excited to share with everyone.
It's exciting. I love that. So you already finished filming, or yes?
Yeah, we finished. We filmed it in about like 3.5 days in June.
Which was a very ambitious goal. Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea. We said if we could have done it in 2 weekends, we would have. But just from like a time perspective and where most of the crew lived, it just made sense to do it in one weekend. And we're still in the editing phase. Right. So post-production, still working on some special effects, still working on music. There's all these things that kind of go into behind the scenes that you don't really think about. Like when you see these movies, these huge, like almost like AI movies, all these special effects, right? Like, and the list at the end of the credits when everyone walks out. I mean, the credits of all these tiny people's names, it's just like hundreds of people that spend more time, I feel like, editing the movie post production than they do making the movie. And I mean, like, kudos to the crew and the team and all the people behind the scenes. It's like anything else, right? People just think that success from like an entrepreneur mindset is overnight. And what they see is the 3-second or the 10-second reel of when you make it, but they don't see everything, all of the years, right? Like behind the time when you don't get the glamour. And like the movie stars, the actors, those are the ones that get all of the glitz and the glam and the fame. But it's like everyone else that's just blood, sweat, and tears. And I feel like that's just kind of reflective of an entrepreneur's journey, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, we're entrepreneurs at heart in everything that we do. Yeah.
Because I've seen you guys, I follow along on Instagram, and I see you guys always trying to, do something new. So it is inspiring too for me as well, because before I started this, I used to follow you guys and see everything that you do. Yeah. I'm inspired by people because, like you said, it's not easy, especially being an entrepreneur. It's not easy. I've interviewed a few already, and they all say the same thing. Nobody sees the behind the scenes. Nobody sees the months, the years that took for someone to be successful already. And people think, yeah, I'm going to start a business, or I'm going to start something really now just to make money or whatever. And something that I've learned from my last interview, actually, he was saying that a lot of people start with the wrong purpose, right? Either money purpose or validation or whatever. And when they don't have the actual purpose in mind, that is to help other people or to bring something that will give life to other people. Whether if you're a believer, that's great. But even if you're not someone that believes in Jesus and you have an idea, purpose, it gives you life and it gives other people life. And that's when you get the reward, right? Not necessarily the money side.
True, like because there are going to be days when it's not easy. And if you're just getting out of bed to make a paycheck, or you're just getting out of bed for glam and there's nobody there to reward you for that. True. It's easier to not get out of bed. But if you're doing it for us, it's all about glorifying God and giving him the honor. But like you said, yeah, if you're not a believer and Jesus is not really guiding you to make sure that it's still affecting others and to have impact, right? That's what keeps you going. Yeah, you need that for sure.
Just to piggyback off that, something that you said was that if what you're doing is affecting others, and I think one thing that we've definitely learned on our entrepreneurial journey, we've been, trying this for years, just different things of how to make it, is that your why can't just be tied to yourself. It has to be tied to other people, because it's so easy for us to give up on ourselves. But when you're fighting for someone else, and a lot of the times it's people you don't even know, you haven't even met yet, just knowing that you're fighting for them and inspiring those people is the things that'll help you dig deep and push a little further. Because even the way we talk to ourselves, a lot of times we talk unkindly to ourselves, and we have to ask ourselves, if someone talked to me the same way I talk to myself, would I want to be friends with that person? And a lot of times we would say no, but we still are very crucial and hard on ourselves. So in that same way, we really have to keep in mind who are the people that we're trying to help along this journey, because that's what's really going to help us to stay in it.
So good, LaVal. That's a quote. Mic drop.
Anything that I say, I've gotten from other people. I didn't come up with it on my own. So.
From Instagram. All these inspirational, motivational speeches. So funny. Amazing. Yeah, no, it's true, because you said your purpose has to be tied to other people, right? Because if it's tied to yourself, we're not gentle with ourselves a lot of times, right? And we judge ourselves so much. Even God doesn't even do that with us, I think. I think he's gracious every morning. Yeah. Even the Bible says his mercies are new every morning, right? Yeah. But we can be so cruel with ourselves. I messed up yesterday and I could carry today, the whole day today and tomorrow and the weekend for years, and not forgive people, not ourselves. So that is true. I agree with that. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. What has been one of the hardest things throughout this journey of this entrepreneurial, I guess, adventure with the movie?
Yeah, I would definitely say the hardest thing is just the faith part of it. A lot of times when you want to start something, you want to make sure it's completely perfect before you even start it, or make sure you have all the funding and everything is already planned out from A to Z. And yes, you have to plan. You can't just go into things haphazardly. But this has definitely been one of those things where, we take one step and then God has provided. We've taken the step, God has provided. He made sure to not lay everything out on the table for us beforehand, because then it wouldn't require faith, because we would just know we have it in the bag. So even, the writing process, having faith that the story's coming together, the production process, making sure that, having faith that we're going to find the right people, find the right team to help us bring it to fruition. The funding is always a huge thing, having faith that we're going to have the funding to make it to production day. Now having faith that we're going to have the funding to complete post-production. So the faith journey has definitely been the biggest, I don't want to say struggle, but the biggest muscle that's been constantly worked on. And now that even once it's completed, now is it good enough? Once it's always, can I do this thing? Now that I did it, is it good enough? So we're constantly I don't know, a friend of mine, Wilson Beltran from church, I told him the other day, he's asking, he's so excited. He was a production assistant on the film as well, and he's been such a help. But he was just so excited. How's it going? I told him, you're almost there, and I'm worried if it's going to be good enough. And he was like, God already signed off on it. So when he said that, it just really was just such a great reminder, and just so encouraging that God, what is it says, he doesn't qualify the called, he doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. So just if you have that thing in your heart, that God placed in there, because he gives us the desires of our heart, not in a genie in the bottle way, but if you're really with God, walking with him, he's going to put in you what he wants to bring out into the world. And so just if he puts it in your heart, just know that He's not going to put that in just to tease you and torment you. He actually wants it to come into fruition, and does require faith because, we can't do any of this without him.
No, no, it does require faith. And that is, I was actually, I can't remember the exact words, but I was listening to a sermon driving back from church today. And the part that caught my attention was he said, sometimes we want to know the answer before the things happen. So that doesn't require faith. If you want that, that means you're trying to control the situation. I was like, that's so good, because then faith wouldn't play a role if you already knew what's going to happen,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah. If you knew, I mean, the only story that we know the ending to is that God is the end of the Bible
Yes.
for us, right?
Yeah.
That's the only one that I really want to know about, honestly. And I'm glad that we know it ends in victory, right? Like otherwise, yeah, it would be awkward. So
Yeah.
kind of know, because then you want to kind of go through the process of life, It's really is. It sounds so cheesy, but like we've had so many people, very successful people, tell us like it really isn't about the end. It really is about the journey, like the walk, because it's what makes the end that much sweeter.
Yeah, it's true. And it's what I'm learning now through this journey, right? Because also I started this first. I started with nothing. I think just my laptop, and then Justice told me about the camera. He's like, "Oh, you can get a little camera and get a mic," And I was like, "Okay, I didn't know." But then I've been meeting different people, and it's been that faith process. Even with this, might be so silly and simple because everybody's doing a podcast, a YouTube channel. But for me, it was like, no, I'm actually interested on learning some things for myself. And I think will be good for other people to learn too along the way with me and to grow, because I need it. I need to grow in different areas of my life. So this has been a faith journey for me too, right? I don't know where it's going. I do have like an idea of what I want, but I don't know how God is going to use it. So yeah, it's been a faith muscle too.
Yeah.
So I can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, what I love about this story in rideshare too is that when you do get in an Uber or a Lyft or a car with somebody, right? Whether you are the driver or you are the passenger at some point, there are going to be conversations along that journey that you don't know how they're going to end or how they're going to go, right? I mean, we've all been in an Uber where you're not talking to the person, but that's so awkward and it's weird. And I think that, I mean, I myself like have been re-inspired by the movie because, obviously we're in it. I was there when we were filming it. Now I'm in it when we're watching, editing it with our director and things like that. And I was in an Uber like last week, and I was able to have a conversation with the guy about God. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like, this is real life. Like, it is real life. But it's just like, it's just so beautiful that you can really be that light, right? I mean, I know it's one of the three pillars that we talk about at church. Well, really, there's four pillars, but it's one of the pillars at church, right, that we talk about. And I think that, I've only been walking with God for about 6 years now. And I was always afraid to share my faith as a new believer. And I think just my personal experience having people be a little bit aggressive in their approach was always what turned me off. And I think that in my walk and how we're called to be the light in people's lives, being able to sit in a car and just have a conversation with somebody and be encouraging, not necessarily, throw Jesus down their throat, but be able to use your testimony or share something that God's done in your life with somebody is such an easy way to just show the glory of God and walk and do something and have a conversation with somebody that might be a believer, might not be a believer, but just leave them better off than like how the day started, right? Like adding value to their life some way. And I think that is what is so beautiful about this story because it's so relatable. And when people ask, oh, what's the movie about? One of the things that I love to say is, and it's true, the conversation that these characters have in the car and the questions that they pose are all things that you and me, whether you're a believer or not, we've all thought about, or maybe we haven't thought about. And then you're like, wait, I don't know the answer to that. know the answer to that, or maybe I should read my Bible and try and see where it says that. So I just think it's so encouraging in that way as well, because whether you're like, obviously we're doing this for the glory of God, and we would love for LaVal to be able to use this medium as a way to, put it in Christian festivals and in that market. But I think for us too, it's so important for people who are non-believers to see it, because that's what we want to give people, is the gift of Jesus, like how good he is.
Yeah, that's so good, because I was actually talking to my mom this approach before coming here, in the sense that I was telling her there's people that share the gospel, it's their heart, but they do it in such aggressive way that it can turn people off. And I told her, I don't know, that's not my style, That's not my style. I want to share Jesus and encourage Jesus in a way that they can see me and we can have a conversation or listen to this podcast and be encouraged by other people. And I want them to want that, right? Not be like pushed away. It is good and interesting that you're actually doing this, because life is a ride. Like, when I think of rideshare now, it's like life is literally a ride. We want to get to a destination when we take an Uber or Lyft, but we don't know what's going to happen. God forbid, accidents happened,
Jesus, take the wheel.
Jesus, take the wheel. Right. A wrong turn happens, a GPS messes up.
And a school bus stops and now you got to pick up a kid or something. You're like, I'm going to miss my train.
Yeah, so that it's so funny. That's cool. It's actually a good idea. So you don't have to do horror. Yeah, good. I'm so encouraged by that, really. So I'm excited and looking forward for the movie to come out. Yeah. One of the things that I asked, because we talked about faith and everything, and you're doing this for God, right? And we talked about the building muscle that is growing as your faith. And I think when we do this and God allows us to be in that ride of life and doing projects like this one, something I think is God building our character, right? Because we don't know what's happening and you have to build muscles that you didn't know you needed to build, right? So it's a character building every project that we do, because entrepreneurship, I think it's like that. And with God, in my family, my aunt, she always says, yeah, we're working for a business for the kingdom of God. So I always thought of it that way. Yeah, we're in a business and this is a life-changing business when you come to Christ. So our definition of success, it's different than the world itself, right? So how can you explain the definition of success? What is your definition of success?
That's a really good question.
I mean, so thank you. And I think, one of the things that we've learned and we were taught when we first started out in our entrepreneurship journey back really in 2018, 2019 together, is, but for me, it's just, and I touched on this a little bit earlier, it's just leaving a legacy of being able to affect people's lives, having them leave a little bit better off than how they started, right? So it's being able, I think, to add value to their lives in a way where, if it's a season that they need encouragement, if it's a season that they need guidance, if it's a season where they need friendship and relationship, whatever it might be, being able to encourage, inspire, actually have impact in their lives, and being able to see them overcome things and achieve that, like, to me, that's success, right? Being able to create a legacy, not only for our kids and our family, but for a couple of generations after us, to be able to help our parents and our generation that's currently living, and being able to really show people that, like, when you walk with God and when you walk with Jesus, like, he has the power of changing your life. And I didn't really start thinking about wanting to help other people until, like, I let Jesus into my life. I mean, I'm an Italian and I love to feed people and I love to, like, host, and that's something that's beautiful. And that's all part, right? That's all part of, I think, walking with God and being able to host people. But I think just leaving people better off because of an interaction with you by adding value to their life, I think, to me, that is what success looks like. Because, I want people to see that when you do things that are not necessarily from, like, a selfish perspective, and that everything should be to serve others, then that's, like, to me, that's a reward of life.
Yeah,
It's a real culmination of, like, the people that we've had impact our lives. Some of them we talk to, some of them we don't talk to anymore.
Yeah.
But they've all helped us, like LaVal and I, become who we are today, along with us putting our lives in Jesus's hands.
Yeah, I mean, I know when we had not first, but as we were going along the journey of making this film, one thing that I always said was, I don't care, if it makes any money or if it gets picked up at awards and submitted and accepted in the festivals. If one person gets saved or it makes a connection to one person, it could be somebody on set, because not everybody on set are believers. So who knows, if it was an actor or someone and the film spoke to them in a special way, then it was all worth it. And, my definition of success has definitely changed over the years, especially. So, like, I grew up going to church and I believed in God, but I didn't really have a relationship with Him. So I was still living a worldly life. And whether it was money or just fame or whatnot, at that time, I kind of thought that's what success was. But as I'm getting older and my walk is now evolving more with the Lord, it's definitely just, I think back to when Jesus said, your treasures in heaven are the things that the moths and the rats or whatnot can't eat or destroy. And I forgot who it was that came to our church. I don't remember his name, but he's from India. And whenever he comes to our church, his message always about the treasures are people. That's the one thing that like we can take with us, not in a possession standpoint, but all of this stuff, the cars, the house, the money and all that, none of that stuff we can take with us, but the people that we'll meet in heaven that we'll get to, and it's not from you talk to me and encourage me, I'm here because of you, pat on your back for that, but it's just the fact that we want to see our friends and loved ones and just everyone make it. Like at the end of the day, I say I'd rather be a janitor scraping gum in heaven than to be a CEO in hell. You know what I mean? So I just want to make it there, and I just want as many people as possible to make it there. And to me, that's success. And even if you're not a believer and you're not there yet with the whole heaven and what's your treasures in heaven and stuff. As Ashley was saying, I think just leaving the world better off than the way it was before you came is really important. That could just be a conversation with someone, or you could still have a regular 9 to 5 and you have a family, or you're a brother, you're a sister, you're a cousin, you're an uncle, you're a niece, your nephew. We're surrounded by so many people in that microcosm that God has placed us in, that we can have a huge impact on those people. And the reason why the world or the country is in disarray on a macro level is because there's disarray on the micro level within the home. So I think it's really important that, as they say, you got to have your house in order before you can do other things. I think that's really important. Yeah.
So good. Yeah. Mic drop. Dropping bombs. So good. Yeah. No. Yeah, that's important because we do want people to experience what Jesus has done in our lives. Do you mind sharing how you came to Christ? What was that moment in your life that made that?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty. It was definitely a prodigal son eating with the pigs situation. Yeah, so I grew up going to church as a kid, and then once I was old enough to not be forced to go, I stopped unless my mother begged me to come for Christmas or Easter or something. Then I would go obligingly, but or begrudgingly, I'm sorry. But definitely just working in the environment that I was in. Not that everybody in the financial world, the 9 to 5 world is bad, but I came to the point where I was just looking forward to happy hour and partying on the weekends and guys trips. Unfortunately, like back then, like the secular world, whether it was music or whatnot, it glorified having a side piece on the side or something. So like I would go on guys trips with bad intentions. One thing led to another. I got divorced back in 2017, and it was a rock bottom moment for me. And you know, when I was at that rock bottom moment, I still felt God calling me. Like I still believed in Him. Like I would pray before going on trips or Thanksgiving meals around family and stuff. But other than that, I wasn't really walking with the Lord. But when I hit that rock bottom moment, something just told me like, man, try to pick up the Bible, try to get back in church. So I started reading the Bible for myself, and I started seeing things about adulterers or divorce, and it's like, man, I felt like I was worse than a murderer. I was just really beating myself. But then I heard God say this quiet whisper, LaVal, I love you way more than your mistakes. And when He said that, I just like broke down in tears and just knew I had to get to church and continue reading the word. And as I was learning that there was a lot of imperfect people in the Bible, David's story was something that really stuck out to me because, David had this calling on his life. God knew that he was going to be a great king. And, he started off as a shepherd or whatnot. David had a bump in the road as well, and God knew that that was going to happen before he even had that destiny on him. So God knows all of the mistakes that we're going to make, and he still called us anyway. So just knowing that was just so encouraging for me. And so I started going to Hillsong in New York City. Crazy enough, when I was working in the bank like 10 years prior, someone was a teller and she had told me she was going to Hillsong. And I was like, oh, okay, good for you. But I was like, what's a church I can go to? I don't know where to go. My mother's church was kind of far removed. So I started going to Hillsong, and then I never stopped going. And just to kind of like tell a little bit about our story. So Ash and I, we were both going to Hillsong, and we never knew each other. We were going for a couple of years. And so we actually found each other on a dating app called Hinge. And like 2 weeks into messaging each other, we found out that we both went to the same church. But I was going in the mornings with my mom, and she was going in the evenings. So that was just like so amazing to meet another believer who goes to the same church as you, because that can be tough too. You meet someone who's a believer, but they may go to another church. Then it's like, whose church do we go to? It could be a little rough. So yeah, but then at the same time,
my God.
I know, but then like also the other side of that is I don't want to go to church like trying to scope people out. I'm really trying to be with the Lord. So it's hard to meet somebody in your own church because you just want to go to church with the right intention. So yeah, that's kind of like how my walk started. And again, it was a process. The Holy Spirit was, continuing to dig things out of my heart because, loving horror movies and listening to certain music, then he starts to slowly like pick things out. And yeah, just God constantly working on my heart. I'm not perfect, and no one is, but it's been a journey. I'm just so grateful because even in the acting journey, when I first started, I just wanted to book anything that I could. So I played, murderers and drug dealers and all these different roles. No matter what, I just wanted to get the part. But now, as the Holy Spirit's working on me, I start to decline a lot more things, whether it's, casino ads or alcohol ads or things that I just know are not going to glorify him. It's not even worth it. And also Pastor Laura, she had mentioned to this during our creative boot camp a couple weekends ago that she was saying, I think she went to the movies or something and she had a HTC creative shirt on. And I think the staff there had asked her if she wanted alcohol or something, and nothing against if you want to have a drink or not. But that reminded me that as we're believers, and not to be afraid of if someone from church sees you, but just your walk, it's really important to walk a certain way because people are looking at you and they may not read the Bible, but they may read the book of LaVal, they may read the book of Ashley, they may read the book of Esther. Well, Esther is a book in the Bible. Your life may be the only book that they may read. There's a book of Esther, actually. So
Yes.
check that out. But yeah, just it's a journey and a process. And I feel like I'm rambling now. But
That's good. So good. No, I'm so proud of him too because, there are so many things now that he gets called for in the acting world that he does decline. He's like, I'm not even auditioning for that because it's just against what it is. And I mean, like we've seen God shield him from roles that LaVal auditioned for a part, he got called back, and then it was between him and another guy that he knew, ironically, I mean, the New York acting scene's small. He always sees people he knows all the time. Like, really? You know that guy? I'm so grateful that he didn't get this part because the part ended up changing. And it was it was a feature film and it was with some great actors, like some very well-known names in Hollywood. And then we watched the movie and we saw the part that he did not get, thank God. And it was completely something different and it did not glorify God. And he and I would have been so upset. And it's so much better that he didn't have to be in a situation where he was on set. And now he's like, I'm not going to play that part. Like, I'm not going to do that in this scene. Like, that's not how we auditioned, but like things change. And I couldn't even imagine him being on set saying no to this like very well-known actor in his face, like saying, no, I'm not going to do that because like I couldn't imagine the pressure that he would have had to. And like God literally shielded him from that. And the way it was written and the way he auditioned for it is completely different than how it ended up playing out in the movie. And like, it takes faith and it can be really hard at times, right? Where you're like, God, why is this not happening? Or God, why did I not get this part? Or why isn't it happening this way? Right. And that's in anything in life. And I'm just so proud of him for making those changes because I know that it's not easy. And I know that there's a lot of money that we've left on the table because LaVal's like, I'm not comfortable doing that. It just doesn't glorify God. And I'm like, I love you. You're the man that I married. But you know what I mean? Because that's like a real thing. Like, yeah, LaVal could have easily said yes to X, Y, and Z. And there would be some great checks, but at the end of the day, he's like, this isn't what I want to do anymore. If I'm going to be in this space, I want to make sure that it's something that I value and that aligns with my values and that is going to not only represent me, but it represents our family and it represents God.
Yeah.
So it's not easy, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it is worth it.
Yeah.
It's true because you have to do things that align with your convictions, with your values, your morals, with your relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
And there are people that are still probably still love the Lord and do things that because God is in their lives that way. So it is good that you have those convictions and values that the Holy Spirit guides you.
Yeah.
So how has been the support that you have received from people?
The support has been amazing. Funny enough, and I'm sure you've gotten this before, and so many entrepreneurs get this, but when you're about to do something, you kind of have an idea who you think is going to support you and who might not. And it's so funny that it can be completely flipped upside down, and the people you would have never thought support you and the people who you thought were going to support you didn't for whatever reason or another. And again, nothing against those people. Everything's a time and a season, but I think that's been one of the most interesting things, and that just teaches us to not have expectations for sure. Yeah, the support has been so amazing, so gracious. The prayers that have been going on, I'm sure people have been praying for us because things have been answered. So we're really excited, and we know it's going to be such a blessing.
Yeah, that's so good. I was talking about these things with my mother before coming here. I was telling her, yeah, I was like listening to this too, and it said how people sometimes don't support you, the people you think are going to support you. And I told her, I'm kind of seeing this now, like the people I thought will support me are not there, and the people that I didn't even know before think are really rooting for me, and it's just interesting.
Yeah.
But I can see those people that are still are there, you know, and that God is bringing other people along the way that encouragement that you needed, right, from other people. And I actually heard, I don't know if you guys follow this page, but it's called Faith Entrepreneur. Yeah, it's a ministry on. I've been watching the videos on YouTube, and this pastor talks about that how you have friends that are ideal friends that are only your friends through the journey that you're doing, the project, whatever. And there are friends that are just your real friends that probably are not going to help you at all with your project or not even nothing like support wise that you might think is support, but they're still there in the back end, right? So he said to never let those real friends go. It might be just 3 or 4, but that might not even share your movie, but they're there behind the scenes, still in your life.
Mhm.
So I thought, oh, that's good to know because sometimes you think, oh, they're not supporting me the way you think they are supposed to support you, but they're still there. So yeah, I was like, that's a good something to hear because you might get sometimes sad or discouraged because you want them to support you the way you think they're supposed to support you, right? So yeah, I think it's everybody goes through that journey when you're starting something, but God is gracious to bring other people and resources that you didn't think he was going to bring.
Yeah, and I think that also, we're so grateful for the support because whether it's family just saying that, oh, my son or daughter is like making a short film, or I think one of the things that we've learned in our journey, right? This is not our first thing that we've done together, is really the weight of expectation.
It actually makes us think about our really good friends of ours, the name of Gus and Irma D'Souza. And they actually told us about Harvest Time because Gus's brother is Rafa, and Rafa and Laura, they're the creative pastors at Harvest Time Church. But,
yeah, I was going to say that from like an expectation standpoint, he taught us something. It's so natural for us to put expectations on family, on friends, the people closest to us, right? Like your spouse, your brother, your sister. And he was like, I did this experiment at home and like my family was coming over and we did not clean the house. He was like, they just always expected it to be clean when they would come over. And he was like, why does it have to be clean? Like, this is how we're living right now. And he was like, it totally debunked their theory. And like, it kind of taught them a lesson and it taught us a lesson too. And I was like, I never really thought about it that way. And it's true. Like, we naturally, like with the people closest to our lives, we create expectations. And when you are doing something new, right? You're starting a new business or you're starting a movie or just anything that you're taking a leap of faith on, it's hard for other people close to you to kind of see the change that you're making, whether it's walking with the Lord all of a sudden or starting something completely out of the ordinary. A lot of people have expectations of what you should be doing, what lane you should be in, how you should be walking, whatever it might be. And it's a humbling character building lesson to have as you grow older and as you get older, to not have expectations on those and to not also have expectations of them to support you in things. And, there are so many people that are close to us that are supporting us. And there are people close to us that are supporting us in a different way, right? Maybe not what we were hoping, but we love them. They love us. And we're grateful for whatever it is that they have. Hopefully they're not like talking bad behind us behind our back. I don't think they are, but honestly, if they are, we probably, we're in our age where we don't care. It's like, it's not a big deal because like we know that this movie is going to impact so many people, that we also know that there are so many people who believe that this movie is going to impact people as well. And we're so grateful for those people and so grateful for their help because it's really going to change people's lives. Like there are, the first couple of times we watched the movie in its edit, like after the first edit. I mean, Esther, I like, was part of the whole story, the process of writing it and filming it with him. Like, and I'm weeping. I'm like weeping at the story because it's so impactful. And there's so many amazing moments that I'm just so grateful that people are supporting us and believing in the story and believing in us and knowing that it's going to actually help people. And like, that's what I'm so excited about. It's such a powerful story.
That's so good. I'm excited. Can you tell us how long did it take you to write it and to film it? Maybe go in detail on that.
Sure. Yeah, it took me maybe 2 months to write it. And then I had a few friends read it over a couple times. So the first draft was a couple months, and then maybe, I don't know, 3 months to complete the script. And then again, we shot it in about 3.5 days, one weekend.
But to get from the script being written to production day was like, when did we finish? We finished in like earlier this year, right? Like March, April, would you say?
What do you mean?
From like story, like from the search of production till actual day one on set.
Oh,
That was like what, 6 months, 4 months?
Probably April that we had everything locked and like ready for production.
Oh, true. Yeah.
Yeah, it's probably about 6 months.
Yeah, about 6 months.
And how many characters? How many characters are there?
There's 9.
9?
Yeah.
Okay. And do you have a favorite character in the movie?
I don't have a favorite. Everybody is great in their own special way. Like every single person is everyone's going to connect with somebody in that film.
Yeah.
Okay. And how do you choose the characters?
Well, actually, I'll answer this one because I thought it was really creative. So I think one of the things that LaVal didn't share about it. So when he wrote the movie, one of the things that he had in mind too was like he really wanted an opportunity to work with a bunch of the people from our church. There's so many creative people at Harvest Time, and we've had the pleasure of, either becoming friends with them or working with them or serving with them in some capacity over the past couple of years, since we've been there almost 4 years now. And on Sundays or on Wednesdays or the times that we get to serve with them, it's such a small amount of time. And LaVal's like, man, it would be so great to like do something outside of the church, like in a professional way. Cause I mean, there's just so much talent, right? I mean, like, look at you, you're literally doing a podcast. Like, this is amazing. And there's just so many talented people. And LaVal wrote the script and the characters, and he had a vision in mind with people that we personally knew, right? Obviously their names are different and the character specifically is different than who we knew, but he wrote it in mind of, I could see so and so playing this character, or I could see so and so playing this character. And that was kind of the origination of like the people and the storylines. And it ended up being that some of it worked out and some of it didn't, but we did have a blessing and an opportunity to work with a bunch of different people from our church as well as people outside of the church. So it's a really good combination of, like, there's a couple of believers who were casted, and then there were some people who were not believers that were casted. So it's I would say, like, the characters were inspired from real people and their storylines of, like, could they play this character and could it be believable? And then it just turned out and developed in some different way, but it all kind of worked out with the initial mission. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that I love about LaVal's writing too is, like, he puts little pieces in there that I think are really unique. Like when LaVal wrote his children's book, right? There were things from our life that he put in the book that, like, we know about and that, like, certain people know about too, right? So when they read the book, they're like, oh my gosh, they were inspired about that. Same thing with this movie. There's just a lot of, like, personal touches that I think that from, like, a Q&A after the movie, I think are kind of really great things to highlight. No shame in plugging a Q&A for the after movie, but I think that's it's a great way to kind of highlight those things after, because there are so many special little nuances that it's like when you watch a movie versus read a book, right? There's things that you pick up on in a book that you don't get from the movie. So that's why I love doing, like, Q&A after the movie airs, because it's a way to kind of go deeper with the characters.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So can you give us like a short scene? Don't say everything, but that impacted you the most during the filming.
I mean, there's definitely a powerful scene on forgiveness. I think it's something that we can all take from, whether it's forgiving yourself or forgiving others. I think that's a really impactful scene
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
And there's also, sorry, every scene is really great. There's also another scene where we live in a world where we get so much information now that knowledge and, like, the confidence of knowledge on the intellectual side is now taking over the heart side. And I think the heart and mind are kind of having a battle in this one scene. And God created both, and both actually come together. And I think there's a intellectual conversation that takes place that's really challenging, and it really, like, comes to us because in life a lot of times nowadays, because we have Google and smartphones and stuff, if we don't have all the answers first, we're not going to take that step. And whether you're, like, dating somebody or something, or a friend group, it's like, oh, are they on social media? I want to see everything about them before I even just go and have coffee with the person and just get to know them for face value, whatever, on the first impression. But yeah, I think there's just so many great scenes in this, and every conversation is different and special. And from, like, a who's it going to connect with, when I wrote this, I really wanted it to be something that's diverse, that everyone can connect to. It's not just for the Black church, or it's not just for one specific church. One thing that I love about Harvest Time, even Pastor Glenn says it, is that this is an example of what heaven looks like. Everyone is there, all ages, all races. It's going to be a beautiful thing. So I think this film is going to connect with a lot of different people in a lot of different ways.
The United Nations, that's what he calls it. That's what I think of. Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, I'm so excited. I can't wait for the movie to come out and bless a lot of people to hear the stories on the ride, right? Yeah, is there tell us when it's coming out? How can people support you right now before it comes out?
Sure. Yeah, we're hoping to complete the editing process, and the film will be finished by mid-November. We're still tightening some things that Ashley said with, like, the special effects or the music. So we still need some funding to help us kind of finish strong, as well as submitting it to festivals, because it does cost to submit to each festival. Yes.
I would say you can support us, obviously, first by prayer. We would really appreciate your prayers just for us and for the movie specifically. And then we could definitely use your support by sharing the story. And obviously, third, I would say by partnering or donating if you feel led after you kind of have seen this video. And even if it's not your season to be able to give right now, and maybe share with somebody who you think could be interested in partnering with us, just because we really want to make an impact on so many people, for them to kind of hear this story and for it to get out. It's such a powerful one, and we're just so grateful that we get to spend this time with you and kind of just hear about your journey, because it's we've been there, right, trying new things, and we're just like, we hope that this story will continue to encourage you as well.
Thank you. It is encouraging. I've been following along your Instagram journeys, the entrepreneurship on Instagram. It's, different seasons, different journeys, different projects, adventures is how I call it.
Yeah,
I'm an adventure.
Yeah, exactly.
This is an adventure with God and me. It's just fun how I see it. Yeah, that's exciting. So where can they find you online?
Oh, of course.
You can follow us on Instagram, tsfaith.ent or rideshare.shortfilm. And then our email address is tsfaithentertainment, faithent@gmail.com. And the TS Faith actually stands for 3 strands. And so when we got married, we did our premarital counseling, and the pastor who led that with us, mentioned that we should have 3 Bible verses that our marriage will be based on. And so we had used the Ecclesiastes one. I'm going to paraphrase it, but it says that one may be overtaken, 2 can defend themselves, a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. And so the TS stands for 3 strands, and our company, 3 Strands Faith Entertainment.
Exciting.
Yay. It's exciting. I can't wait. So guys, please support my friends in, following the links that they just mentioned. And share this video, comment on it so we can get more traction and other people can see it too. So I'm excited for it to come out, and this was fun. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much for having us. This is a real blessing.
This is really fun, and to get to know you a little bit more too, because church is so big sometimes. And you don't get to talk to everybody. So this is nice. This is nice. Yeah, I'm excited. And thank you for watching and listening to this encouraging video and testimony of growth and faith. So I hope that you can like this video, subscribe, and you can follow along on Instagram, and you can listen on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio at From the Ground Up with Esther. So I'll see you next time on the next episode. Thank you guys. Bye-bye.